Today, I'd like to talk about the issue of crime involving Chinese nationals within Japan. First, let's look at this case. It's about a so-called special organizer who was apprehended. This type of crime, where the leader uses the internet to gather subordinates to carry out crimes while the mastermind reaps the benefits from behind the scenes, has been quite prevalent for a while. In this instance, the captured individual is a 35-year-old Chinese man residing in Osaka. What's surprising here is that among the items seized from him were 752 smartphones. This means he was likely using these smartphones to avoid detection while coordinating with his subordinates online. Usually, when we buy a phone, there are strict identity verification procedures that we go through, even for a second phone, so it's quite a hassle. But here we have a person with over 700 phones. How did he manage that? Initially, I thought he might have been buying phones from people in financial distress, or perhaps he set up dummy companies to acquire phones through corporate contracts. But even then, collecting 700 devices is no easy task. The phone units themselves can be bought cheaply, especially if they're outdated models, but what about the SIM cards? In fact, there was another case that might give us a hint about how this was done. Another 35-year-old Chinese man, this time living in Narima Ward, Tokyo, was caught running a business that rented out SIM cards without verifying the identities of the recipients, allowing access to around 2,400 SIM cards. Although he was a different person from the organizer in Osaka, he, too, was involved in identity-verified SIM rental, which could have enabled individuals to use hundreds of phones anonymously. This kind of crime makes it feel absurd that the general public has to go through strict verification when buying a phone. Even with all these checks, such a large loophole makes them practically meaningless. The police are investigating this case on suspicion that the SIM cards may have been used in criminal activities, though that seems almost certain. For law-abiding citizens in Japan, owning multiple phones is challenging due to strict regulations. However, if a Chinese national runs a SIM card business without verification, these regulations become ineffective. Crime groups likely exploit such gaps to obtain untraceable phone numbers and smartphones to carry out internet and phone scams. Recently, these activities have escalated beyond scams to include violent robberies, some involving actual weapons and leading to fatalities. It's as if Japan's safety is being eroded. Foreign crime organizations forming within Japan is highly concerning. For years, I've warned that as technology improves, language barriers will diminish, allowing foreign criminals to operate seamlessly in Japan. Even though the language barrier remains somewhat, such groups have already started operating here. And if they are caught, they often face lighter sentences in Japan compared to their home countries. Japanese prisons are comparatively less harsh, providing regular meals and a structured lifestyle, so for some, it's better than life outside. If criminals know that being apprehended in Japan means they won't face severe consequences, it may attract even more of them. After release, they could access stashed funds, which they may have hidden or claimed to have gambled away. Japan could become an appealing target if crime remains profitable and sentences are lenient. I've long argued that economic crimes should come with severe consequences. Punishments need to be harsh enough to deter such crimes entirely. Compared to neighboring countries, Japan's penalties and prison conditions are lax. Unless the penalties for organized crime are tightened, these criminal networks will continue to see Japan as an easy target. To truly address this issue, financial penalties should reflect not only the actual damages but also punitive multiples to deter future crimes. In civil cases, you can't claim more than the actual loss, and the burden of pursuing compensation falls on the victim. For serious crimes, Japan might consider a system where offenders' entire assets are confiscated without complicated proof of the fund's origins. Such a measure could deter leaders who stockpile wealth through crime. Years ago, fraud was the primary issue, but now, violent robberies are also on the rise, with some victims losing their lives. Given this situation, it's essential to question if such lenient punishments are acceptable. We need a stronger sense of urgency to combat organized crime effectively, and harsher penalties could play a role in preventing future incidents. This issue should be elevated as a political priority, and we, the public, should support leaders who take a strong stance on these matters. That's all for today, thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.